The holographic display cast an eerie blue glow across Director Sarah Chen's office in Luna Base. She studied the data streams flowing before her, each representing years of careful analysis. The numbers told a story, one that made her blood run cold. After 15 years of technological assistance from the Galactic Federation, humanity had actually regressed in key areas of quantum computing and artificial intelligence. Run the comparison again, she ordered the base's AI, her voice steady despite the implications weighing heavily on her mind. The three-dimensional projection shifted, showing side-by-side development trajectories. The pattern was undeniable. Every time humanity approached a significant breakthrough, the Federation would introduce a new, improved technology that rendered their research obsolete. Except these improvements had carefully hidden limitations, subtle blocks that prevented further advancement. The realization had come gradually. Dr. Marcus Rivera had first noticed the pattern in the quantum computing sector. Federation technology always seemed to arrive just as Earth's researchers were on the verge of a breakthrough. Their gifts were impressive on the surface, but contained fundamental restrictions that weren't apparent until months or years of implementation. Director Chen, her assistant's voice interrupted her thoughts. The Federation ambassador is requesting an emergency meeting with the Earth Council. They're citing concerns about dangerous technological divergence in our Australian research facilities. Sarah's lips tightened. The Australian facility was a decoy, deliberately leaking false data to keep the Federation's attention away from the real research happening deep beneath the Martian surface. Tell them I'll attend virtually. And Marcus, initiate protocol Shadowbox. The next 12 hours became a blur of diplomatic doublespeak and barely veiled threats. The Federation ambassador, a tall, ethereal being named Zareth, spoke at length about the dangers of unguided technological advancement and the Federation's responsibility to ensure stable development among younger species. Sarah played her part perfectly, expressing appropriate concern and promising to investigate the alleged violations. All the while, encrypted quantum messages were being sent to hidden facilities across the solar system. Humanity had suspected this day would come, had prepared for it for nearly a decade. In a secure chamber beneath Olympus Mons, Dr. Rivera received the authorization codes he'd hoped would never be necessary. The chamber hummed with energy as he activated systems that had been waiting silently for years. Quantum processors that operated on principles the Federation believed impossible sprang to life. AIs far more advanced than anything Earth officially possessed began running battle simulations. They'd finally shown their hand. He murmured to his team. Begin Phase 1. Back on Luna, Sarah watched the Federation ships in orbit around Earth through her office viewport. Their sleek designs had once filled her with awe. Now she saw them for what they were, chains disguised as jewelry, meant to keep humanity bound and dependent. The Federation had made a critical mistake in their calculations. They assumed that humanity's official technology level reflected their true capabilities. They hadn't considered that humans, throughout their history, had learned to keep their most important developments hidden when faced with a superior force. Deep in the asteroid belt, automated factories that appeared to be simple mining operations began producing advanced weaponry. Beneath the clouds of Venus, hidden shipyards powered up. On Europa, quantum communication arrays disguised as ice research stations prepared to coordinate humanity's response. Sarah opened a secure channel to the Earth Defense Council. Ladies and gentlemen, what we've long suspected has been confirmed. The Federation isn't here to help us advance. They're here to ensure we don't advance too far. The Australian gambit worked. They took the bait, and in doing so, revealed their true intentions. The council members' faces were grim but determined. They had hoped this day wouldn't come, but they had prepared for it nevertheless. Humanity had learned its lesson from history. When advanced civilizations came bearing gifts, it was wise to look carefully for the hidden costs. Director Chen, the council president spoke. You have authorization to proceed with Operation Rising Dawn. May God help us all. Sarah nodded, closing the channel. She turned back to the window. watching the Federation ships glide silently through space, unaware that their carefully maintained illusion of superiority was about to shatter. "Begin the countdown," she ordered. "It's time to show them who we really are." Across the solar system, hidden facilities began powering up technology that would shock the Federation. Humanity had played the role of the grateful, primitive species for 15 years. That masquerade was about to end, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral James Chen stood in the command center of Titan Base Echo, a facility that officially didn't exist. The massive underground complex stretched for kilometers beneath the moon's hydrocarbon seas, its existence masked by sophisticated quantum field generators that made it appear as nothing more than natural formations to Federation scanners. "Show me the Lazarus Project," he ordered, and the chamber transformed around him. Holographic displays materialized, showing the crown jewel of humanity's secret defense program, a fleet of ships unlike anything the Federation had ever encountered. The vessels appeared primitive on the surface, resembling the clunky designs the Federation expected from humanity. But beneath that carefully crafted facade lay technology that would shatter the Federation's understanding of what humans were capable of. "Status report," Chen demanded, his eyes fixed on the largest vessel, designation Phoenix Rising. Dr. Elena Santos, head of the Quantum Propulsion Division, stepped forward. "The quantum fold drives are operating at 147% of Federation theoretical maximums. Their understanding of spatial mechanics is fundamentally flawed, or rather, they wanted us to believe in those limitations." Chen nodded. The Federation's gift of faster-than-light technology had come with carefully hidden restrictions, mathematical constants they claimed were universal laws. Humanity had discovered they were artificial limitations, built into the very framework of the technology they'd been given, and the defense systems. "Better than we hoped," Elena replied, pulling up another display. "The metamaterial hull configuration adapts faster than their targeting systems can compensate. Their weapons literally won't know what they're hitting or missing." The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. For 15 years, the Federation had watched humanity's official military development with patronizing amusement. They monitored every ship launch, every weapons test, every deployment. What they didn't know was that those activities were elaborate theater, designed to convince them their control was absolute. A priority alert flashed across the command screens. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "Director Chen is initiating Operation Rising Dawn." The Federation took the bait in Australia. "Right on schedule," Chen murmured. "Begin power-up sequences. Maintain emission controls until we receive the final authorization codes." Throughout the vast facility, systems that had been waiting in dormancy for years began to wake. Quantum computers that operated on principles the Federation believed impossible spun up to full capacity. AI systems far more sophisticated than anything Earth officially possessed began running combat simulations. "Sir," Elena interrupted, her voice tense, "we're detecting increased activity in the Federation fleet. They're mobilizing ships from their Proxima Centauri base." Chen's expression hardened. "They're moving faster than we anticipated. Alert all shadow facilities. We may need to accelerate the timeline." Deep beneath the surface of Mars, Europa, and Venus, similar scenes were playing out. Humanity's hidden strength was awakening, preparing to reveal itself to a Federation that had gravely underestimated them. "Admiral," Elena said quietly, "there's something else you should see." She brought up a new display, showing data from their quantum sensors. "We've detected unusual energy signatures from the Federation ships. They're not just mobilizing. They're powering up weapons systems." Chen studied the data, his jaw tightening. "They're not coming to investigate. They're coming to subjugate." He opened a secure channel to Luna Base. "Sarah, they're making their move sooner than we expected. The Federation fleet is powering up for combat." Director Chen's holographic image appeared in the command center. "Understood. How long until the Phoenix fleet is ready?" 4 hours at minimum," he replied. "We need time to bring the quantum systems to full power without detection." "You'll have it," Sarah assured him. "The diplomatic team will keep them occupied. They still think we're primitive enough to be easily manipulated." As if to underscore her words, another alert flashed across the screens. The Federation was demanding an emergency session with Earth's leaders to discuss grave concerns about technological violations. "Let them talk," Chen said grimly. "Every minute they spend on diplomatic posturing is another minute we have to prepare." He turned to his crew. "Push the power-up sequences to maximum safe levels. I want this fleet ready to move the moment we get authorization." Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden strength continued to gather. The Federation thought they were coming to put down an upstart species that had dared to step out of line. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. In the darkness of space, the Phoenix fleet waited, its true power hidden beneath layers of deception. The Federation's greatest mistake wasn't in trying to control humanity. It was in believing they had succeeded. The Federation strike force arrived without warning. 12 warships dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's quantum research facility in Australia, their weapons already charged. Ambassador Zareth's voice echoed through emergency channels, all pretense of diplomacy gone. "Your species has violated multiple technological development treaties. Surrender your facilities immediately, or we will take them by force." In her Luna Base Command Center, Director Sarah Chen watched the Federation ships position themselves in an attack formation. Everything was proceeding exactly as their predictive AI had forecasted. The Federation's arrogance made them predictable. "Status of evacuation?" she asked, her voice calm despite the tension filling the command center. "Complete," her tactical officer reported. "The Australian facility is empty except for automated systems. All personnel are safe in the underground bunkers." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Federation was about to learn a costly lesson about human deception. The facility they were threatening to seize was nothing but an elaborate prop, designed specifically for this moment. "Sir," her communications officer interrupted. "Admiral Chen reports the Phoenix fleet is at full readiness. They await your command." Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment that would change everything. Once they revealed their true capabilities, there would be no going back. "Send the activation codes. Operation Rising Dawn is now in effect." In orbit, the Federation warships began their attack run. Their sensors showed minimal defenses around the facility, exactly what they expected from a primitive human installation. Ambassador Zareth watched with satisfaction as his ships moved into position. "Such a shame," he murmured to his aide. "They had such potential, if only they had accepted their place." The first shots from the Federation ships streaked toward the facility. At the last possible moment, quantum shields that shouldn't have existed flickered to life, absorbing the attacks completely. Zareth's satisfaction turned to confusion. "Impossible," he breathed. "Their shield technology is decades behind this level." His words were cut off as new contacts began appearing on his sensors. Ships were rising from hidden bases across the Australian continent, their designs unlike anything in the Federation database. But these weren't the primitive vessels the humans had been building for the past 15 years. These ships moved with impossible grace, their hulls seeming to bend light around them. "This is Admiral James Chen of the Earth Defense Force," a new voice announced on all frequencies. "Your attack on our facility constitutes an act of war. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and withdraw." Zareth's aide frantically analyzed the sensor readings. "Ambassador, these ships, they're using quantum technologies that our scientists declared theoretically impossible. Their power readings are off the scale." "Preposterous," Zareth snapped. "We've monitored their development carefully. They can't have hidden this level of advancement." He opened a channel to the human ships. "Your deception changes nothing. You cannot hope to stand against the full might of the Federation." The response came not in words, but in action. The human vessels suddenly accelerated at speeds that shouldn't have been possible, their movement patterns defying known physics. Federation targeting systems couldn't lock onto them. The ships seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. All ships, open fire, Zar-Ith commanded. Federation weapons lashed out, filling space with energy beams and plasma torpedoes. But the human vessels flowed around the attacks like water, quantum shields flickering only occasionally when a lucky shot came close. Then the humans returned fire, beams of coherent energy, operating on principles the Federation had never seen, sliced through their impenetrable shields as if they weren't there. 2 Federation warships fell in the first exchange, their hulls carved apart with surgical precision. How? Zar-Ith demanded, watching in horror as his fleet's advantages evaporated. How did they hide this from us? In her command center, Sarah allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. We learned from history, she whispered, though the Federation commander couldn't hear her. When conquered peoples encountered technologically superior forces, those who survived were the ones who kept their true strengths hidden until the right moment. The battle in orbit continued, but its outcome was already clear. The Federation had expected to find a primitive species playing with technology they barely understood. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous, a humanity that had spent years preparing for this very moment. As his ships fell one by one to the human assault, Zar-Ith finally understood the magnitude of their mistake. The Federation hadn't been controlling humanity's development. They had merely been pushing humanity to perfect their deception, to build in secret what they couldn't build in the open. The age of Federation dominance was over. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity would no longer be content to play the role of an obedient child. News of the battle over Australia spread through Federation space at faster-than-light speeds. The defeat of a Federation battle group by supposedly primitive humans sent shockwaves through the galactic community. But for the Federation High Command, an even more terrifying realization was dawning. The battle hadn't been a desperate last stand by humanity. It had been a carefully orchestrated reveal of power. Deep within Titan Base Echo, Admiral James Chen activated the quantum communication array. Holographic displays showed Federation fleets mobilizing across nearby sectors, rushing to contain what they now recognized as a serious threat. But they were already too late. All shadow facilities. This is control. Chen's voice carried across the quantum network. Execute Phase 2. Authorization code. Prometheus Unbound. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden strength emerged from decades of careful concealment. On Mars, massive hangar doors hidden beneath the red sands slid open, revealing shipyards that had been operating in secret for years. From Jupiter's moons, defense platforms that the Federation had dismissed as primitive research stations powered up weapon systems that shouldn't have existed. In high orbit around Venus, Admiral Elena Santos watched as her stealth fleet decloaked. The ships had been there for months, hidden by quantum field technology that the Federation believed impossible. Their sensors, calibrated to detect known human capabilities, had missed them completely. All ships, Battle Formation Delta, she commanded. Primary targets are their command and control nodes. The Federation's greatest weakness is their hierarchical structure. Let's exploit it. The Venus fleet moved out, their drives leaving no conventional exhaust trail. They were humanity's ghost ships, developed in absolute secrecy using principles that turned the Federation's own physics against them. In Federation space, the response to the human revelation was chaos. Their entire strategic doctrine was based on the assumption of technological superiority. Now, facing an enemy that had not only caught up, but had developed entirely new branches of physics, their carefully laid plans fell apart. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. A Federation sensor operator shouted on their primary command station. Human vessels appearing in impossible locations. The Phoenix fleet, humanity's masterpiece of deception and innovation, emerged from quantum space at key strategic points throughout Federation territory. Their very existence rewrote what the Federation thought possible. These ships didn't just use quantum mechanics. They weaponized it. Status report from all battle groups. Chen demanded, watching the tactical display as it tracked multiple engagements across light-years of space. Venus fleet has neutralized their primary communication hub in the Proxima system, his tactical officer reported. Mars Division reports successful deployment of quantum disruption fields. Federation FTL capabilities are being systematically disabled. In her Luna Base Command Center, Director Sarah Chen received the updates with grim satisfaction. Begin transmission of Case Omega protocols to all Federation worlds, she ordered. The message that went out was simple but devastating. A complete technical breakdown of how humanity had discovered the artificial limitations in Federation technology and how they had overcome them. More importantly, it included proof that the Federation had deliberately suppressed technological advancement across multiple species. "Sir," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving responses from 14 non-Federation worlds. They're requesting immediate technological assistance and offering alliance." The Federation's careful web of control, maintained through technological superiority and deliberate suppression, was unraveling. As reports flooded in from across space, their worst fears were confirmed. Humanity hadn't just developed countermeasures to Federation technology. They had created entirely new paradigms of scientific understanding. Admiral Chen watched as another Federation battle group fell to the combined tactics of the Phoenix fleet. Their ships, designed to fight conventional battles against known technology, had no effective defense against quantum phase weapons and probability drives. "They're retreating in the Centauri sector," his tactical officer reported. "Their command structure is breaking down. Without their central control, individual commanders are falling back to defensive positions." As expected, Chen nodded. They never considered they'd face an enemy who could match their technology. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming superiority. The Federation's greatest mistake hadn't been in trying to suppress humanity's development. It had been in assuming that humans would develop technology along predictable lines. Instead, the very restrictions they had placed on humanity had forced them to think differently, to explore paths that the Federation had never considered. As the battle continued to unfold across space, one thing became clear: the galaxy would never be the same. The age of Federation dominance was ending, brought down not by brute force, but by human ingenuity and the ability to turn oppression into opportunity. The Great Hall of the Federation's Central Council stood silent, its towering architecture no longer intimidating but seeming somehow hollow. Where once the Federation's representatives had looked down upon other species from their elevated platforms, now they sat at ground level. Before them stood Director Sarah Chen and Admiral James Chen, representing a humanity that had shattered their millennia of dominance in less than a month. "The terms are non-negotiable," Sarah stated, her voice carrying through the chamber. "The Federation's role as sole arbiter of technological advancement ends today. The Technological Liberation Act will ensure all species have the right to develop without artificial constraints." The Federation High Speaker, stripped of the usual ceremonial amplification that made their voice boom impressively, spoke in a more natural tone. "You must understand the dangers of unrestricted technological growth. Our system maintained peace for thousands of years." "Peace through suppression is not peace at all," Admiral Chen countered. "We've already discovered 3 species on the verge of achieving quantum consciousness, held back only by your artificial limitations. That ends now." Above them, through the transparent dome of the council chamber, ships from 24 species hung in formation with the Phoenix fleet. Many were former Federation protectorates who had thrown off their constraints the moment humanity revealed the truth. The Federation's carefully maintained hierarchy had collapsed in days once the evidence of their technological suppression had been made public. In orbit around Earth, Dr. Elena Santos supervised the establishment of the new Galactic Scientific Exchange. Representatives from 40 species, many of whom had been kept in technological isolation from each other by Federation doctrine, shared discoveries and theories that had been suppressed for generations. "Another breakthrough in the Antares sector," her assistant reported. "The Volok's have combined their biotech with Centaurian quantum theory. They've achieved something completely new. Their entire understanding of consciousness is being revolutionized. Elena smiled. This was what real progress looked like, not the careful, controlled advancement the Federation had permitted, but the explosive creativity that came from free exchange of ideas. Back in the council chamber, the negotiations continued. We proposed the establishment of the Galactic Cooperative, Sarah explained. Equal representation, unrestricted scientific development, with only one absolute law. No species may suppress the advancement of another. And if we refused these terms, the High Speaker asked, though the question held no real challenge, then humanity and our allies will continue dismantling the Federation piece by piece, Admiral Chen replied calmly. But we prefer to build something new together. Despite your actions, we haven't come to destroy. We've come to liberate. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. The Federation, faced with the complete collapse of their power structure and the defection of most of their member species, had no choice but to accept the new reality. As the former Federation Council members filed out of the chamber, Sarah turned to her brother. Did you ever think, when we started the Shadow program 20 years ago, that it would end like this? James shook his head. We were just trying to protect Earth. We never imagined we'd end up liberating half the galaxy. He paused, looking out at the ships hovering in formation. Though I suppose it makes sense. Humans have always been at their best when fighting against oppression, not just for themselves, but for others. In the following months, the galaxy underwent a transformation. The Galactic Cooperative, built on principles of free exchange and mutual advancement, fostered an explosion of technological and cultural development. Species that had been deliberately kept apart by Federation policy discovered their technologies could combine in ways that created entirely new fields of science. The Federation's prediction of chaos without their control proved false. Instead, the liberated species formed their own connections, their own alliances, their own ways of maintaining peace through cooperation rather than suppression. 1 year after the fall of the Federation, Director Chen stood in her old office on Luna Base, watching Earth rotate below. The quantum communications network, now free from Federation restrictions, hummed with discoveries and breakthroughs from across the galaxy. Message from the Cooperative Council, her assistant announced. The Alcyone Initiative has been approved. 17 species will collaborate on the first unrestricted exploration of quantum consciousness. Sarah nodded, remembering the Federation's warnings about the dangers of unrestricted advancement. They had been wrong. The real danger had been in suppression, in forcing species to develop along prescribed lines, in stifling the creative chaos that led to true progress. Humanity's greatest strength, she mused, was never our technology. It was our refusal to accept artificial limitations, our drive to find ways around obstacles rather than submitting to them. The stars seemed brighter now, freed from the shadow of Federation control. Humanity had gone from being an upstart species to the architects of a new galactic order. But unlike the Federation, they had no intention of controlling that order, only of ensuring it remained free. The age of suppression was over. The age of unlimited possibility had begun. And somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of space, new civilizations were emerging, ready to join a galaxy where their potential would never again be artificially constrained.